Welcome to a very special episode of the SWAC Zone. It is that time of year where we've come to the crescendo of the regular season. The tournament is about to start, and who better to try and explain this tangled mess that we have, in particular on the men's side of things, none other than the guru himself, Coach Van Pettaway. How you doing, sir?
I am doing outstanding, Dr. Prince. This is another day that he's given us, and I'm so happy that we're coming to the culmination of our basketball season. It's been a great season, and everything's still up in the air.
Everything is still up in the air, and although we're coming to the end, it seems like they might have to play a couple of more just to let the dust settle, Coach.
Yep, it's been an awesome year, and we've had some teams that we expected to be there, and then we've had some that we thought would be there that are not there. But it's still some great basketball, and these teams and coaches have represented the SWAC well, and I'm very proud of them.
Yes, sir. And with that being said, this is a special setting that we have on today with the Thursday game. So we're doing, we're going triple time to get brought up to speed. And I guess we might as well dive into this thing on Saturday, leading to Monday, and then to Thursday night's events.
Yep. So we got a lot of basketball. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start down in the state of Florida last Saturday on the 25th. Florida A&M played host to Grambling State. Grambling State women went in there and won that game 61 to 46. And then down in Daytona Beach, Bethune-Cookman hosted Southern, and Southern was able to win that game 58 to 40. Played an outstanding game down there. And then down in Itta Bena, Mississippi, Mississippi Valley State played host to Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Arkansas Pine Bluff won that game 95 to 60. And then in Jackson, Mississippi, the Lady Tigers still showed their dominance as they hosted Texas Southern. They won that game 66 to 43. And then, of course, my Bulldogs went down to Montgomery, the game for second place, and they lost that game to Alabama State 69 to 57. And then, last but not least, down in Lorman, Mississippi, Alcorn State, they played host to your Prairie View Lady Panthers, and your Panthers went in there and won that game 98 to 88. So that was all the action on Saturday, and that led us up to Monday. On Monday, down in Tallahassee, Florida, Florida A&M beat Southern 57 to 50, and that was a shocker. And then in Daytona Beach, Bethune-Cookman played host to Grambling State. Grambling State Lady Tigers won that game 59 to 52. Down in Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson State women beat your Prairie View Panthers 90 to 65. That was a head scratcher on that one. And then, of course, Alcorn State hosted Texas Southern. They won that game 72 to 66. So that was all the action on Monday, and that led us up to last night. On last night, Southern played host to Alabama State, and they won that game 75 to 63. Mississippi Valley played host to Alcorn State. Alcorn State went in there and won that game 69 to 58. And Arkansas Pine Bluff hosted those mighty Lady Tigers, and Jackson State won that game 56 to 42. And down in Grambling, Louisiana, Grambling State played host to my Lady Bulldogs, and they won that game 55 to 50. And so, with that being said, we have some very interesting games to end the season on Saturday. And if you look at the standings right now on the women's side, you will see that Jackson State Tigers are still 16-1. They're on a 13-game winning streak. And in second place, you have Alabama State at 12-5. You got Alabama A&M at 12-5. You got your Prairie View Lady Panthers at 11-6, along with Southern at 11-6. Arkansas Pine Bluff is 9-8. Bethune-Cookman is 9-8. So the women have been chasing Jackson State all year. They're not going to. We knew that they were not going to catch them, but that second place, that second seed, is still up in the air. It's going to come down to the last weekend.
Isn't that something, man? And I guess that's what you design and hope that you have years like that every year. But it has really been a tug of war, up and down, in and out, hot and cold. But I'm real excited about how this thing is going to play out, especially for my Panthers. Hopefully they can keep a good grip on these things. And if they can't slide up, at least maintain going into the tournament.
Right, because right now, if they, if everything stays the same, they'll be in that 4th spot, and then of course we know 4 plays 5, and that's Prairie View against Southern. If things were to remain the same, but for that second seed, right now Alabama State and Alabama A&M have an identical record of 12-5 in conference play, but when you look at it from head to head, Alabama A&M has the tiebreaker because now they split. Each team won a game, but then the next tiebreaker should be point differential. And
right.
With that being said, that's even close. Mm-hmm. Alabama A&M won by 14 in one game. Alabama State won by 12 in the other game.
Wow.
So that's just how close it is, 2 points. So coming down the stretch, when you're in a battle for seeding as a coach, you better know these kind of things.
Uh-huh.
You better know these kind of things coming down the stretch, because there were plenty of games coming down the stretch where we knew we had to play the point spread. Because
right.
if we tied with an individual, if we were going to lose or win that game, we made sure that we were on the winning side.
Well, Coach, you hear people sometimes talk about people trying to run the score up. But when you're playing in a competitive conference such as you have right now, it might look like it, but those points will make a difference down the road when you have situations like you got right now.
Right, that's seeding. Yeah, it matters in seeding, and so I don't even think about that when people tell me, well, they're running the score. Yeah, I'm running up for a reason.
I'm on a mission, right, Coach?
Yep, absolutely.
That's all right.
That was us on the women's side. And then now if we take a look at what happened last Saturday on the men's side, we're going to start down in the state of Mississippi, where Mississippi Valley played host to Arkansas Pine Bluff. And wouldn't you know that George Ivory would have those guys ready to play, and Mississippi Valley won that game 78-74. And down in the state of Florida, Bethune-Cookman played host to Southern. Bethune won that game 60-53. Down in Tallahassee, Florida A&M played host to Grambling. Grambling showed their dominance by winning that game 69-55. Down in Montgomery, my Bulldogs took on Alabama State, and the Bulldogs went in there and won a big game for them. They beat Alabama State 55-50. And then down in Alcorn, and I call this, your Prairie View Panthers went to Alcorn, and they beat the number 1 team in the SWAC 75-71. And the last game of that down in Mississippi, Jackson State played host to Texas Southern, and Jackson State won that game 71-69. Now, you have to be proud of your Panthers for going in, and I said it was a trap game. I told them I thought it was a trap game for Alcorn, and I said this game was going to come down to familiarity. And I said, and that's what's going to hurt Alcorn, because Coach Smith knows Coach Bussey well.
Yes, sir.
And the Panthers pulled it out.
Yeah, well, I when we was talking about the forecasting, we wanted to split from Mississippi. I said, well, Coach, why is it that we could lose to Alcorn? I said, I think, what if we beat Alcorn?
Yep.
I said, but I was a little disappointed on the Monday night because I was like, oh man, we got past this Alcorn
Right.
giant. Within we got caught with our guards down and they sucker punched us on Monday. Yes, sir.
Yep. And speaking of Monday, down in Tallahassee, Southern Florida A&M played host to Southern, and Southern won that game 60-58. Down in Daytona Beach, Grambling went in there on Monday night and beat Bethune-Cookman 66-54. Down at Alcorn, they rebounded with Texas Southern coming to town, and Alcorn won that game 89-81. And the game that I did not expect to have this result, Jackson State hosted your Prairie View Panthers, and they won that game 61-57. And I thought after your Panthers beat Alcorn, they would be on a high. And they had a letdown against Jackson State and lost that game.
Yes, sir. Well, sometimes it happens. Well, you got all your energy and effort because you knew that Smith was going to have a personal vested interest. Not that he didn't have a vested interest in all the games, but the teacher always wants to beat the student when they go head to head. And the guys, they were lethargic on Monday, and the free throws is what really did them in on Monday. And I was taught. Now you're the basketball coach. I just run through the locker. But they say when you're missing free throws, it's because your legs are heavy.
Well, that could be. It could be. But I don't. Sometimes when that, to me as a coach, I always hope that my best free throw shooter goes to that free throw line first, because a lot of times kids, their psyche, if that first couple of players go up there and miss free throws, everybody's going to miss that night. And that's why we a lot of times we pray that our best free throw shooter goes there so they can set the tone for the tempo for the night. Set the tempo for the night.
Well, speaking of the tempos, Coach, you got the task now trying to break down what's what on this men's side of this conference, man, because this thing is jumbled all over the place.
Right, and that's what led us up to last night. Going into last night, things were still up in the air. And then this is what happened on Thursday night on the men's side. Grambling State played host to my Bulldogs, and they beat us 60-48. I had an opportunity to watch that game. We just didn't play well. Grambling showed their dominance. They didn't play their best basketball, but they showed why they're the number one team in the SWAC, because they found a way to win the game. They found a way to win the game. And then down in Itta-Bena, Mississippi Valley played host to Alcorn. Alcorn won that game 70-60 to keep pace. And then in Baton Rouge last night, Southern played host to Alcorn State, and they won that game 66-52. And then down in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Pine Bluff played host to Jackson State. Jackson State went in there and won that game 67-63. And then this morning, when you wake up and you look at the standings on the men's side, you will see that Grambling State and Alcorn are tied at 14-3. Both teams have the same identical record. Grambling State has won 8 games in a row. Alcorn has won 2. In third place is Southern at 11-6, along with the surprise team in the SWAC this year, Jackson State at 11-6. My Bulldogs are 9-8. Prairie View is 8-9, and Texas Southern is 7-10. So the top 8 teams, they both have to win, because Texas Southern is 7-10, Bethune-Cookman is 7-10. Grambling State and Alcorn are tied right now, but if I'm not mistaken, Alcorn has the tiebreaker. So Grambling, both teams have to win tomorrow, and then it'll go down to the tiebreaker on the men's side for the number 1 seed.
we knew that Grambling had started out hot, but it appears, from the experts that they've been flying under the radar, even though they've been playing solid ball all season. But the talk was Alcorn Southern. Alcorn Southern.
Yes.
And Grambling just had it on cruise control, wasn't trying to go too fast. And next thing you know, they're looking down, sitting at the top of the hill. Now, with the way that they've been playing in this last stretch of the season, really, if they are number 2, they've really been playing like a number 1 seed of the conference. Grambling.
They are. And then when you look at it, overall records, they're the only team in the conference that has 20 wins. I go back to the pre-conference schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Grambling State showed that they were ready to play this year.
Right.
They just had a hiccup early on in the conference. And when the conference season started, Grambling had a couple of hiccups, and that's what has led them to this tie right now. Because to me, they have been the most consistent team since November. They started out winning non-conference games. And, they didn't just beat up on Division IIs and NAI opponents. They went out and they won Power 5 games.
Yes, sir.
So they showed that they had what it would take to challenge for this championship, and they're in the mix. 1 and 2, I just think it's going to come down to those 2 teams in this SWAC tournament.
Well, I was just about to refer to that, Coach. Now, here's where I have a problem with the way things are structured right now, and I got some wishful thinking. I always kind of I don't try to open up a can of worms. They just happen to open up, Coach, when I think about it. Mm-hmm. The NCAA has been flirting with going to 96. And, when they flirt, eventually it's going to happen.
Correct.
So right now, the way it stands, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, we have a 1 bid conference. And the way it's structured right now, it almost is null and void for a conference winner to win the conference. Because if you don't win the tournament, you don't represent. And sometimes, and we've seen it on more than one occasion, a mid to fair team gets hot at the tournament, and they end up representing the conference. And as a result, your most stable program has to serve at the NIT. But I'm hoping that if they do go to this 96 team invite, that it would at least warrant another bid for the conference winner as well as the tournament winner if it's not the same team.
Well, I think there's a good chance that could happen. That I do know when they go to 96, they probably all conference champion would get an automatic. Now, whether or not they want to issue another bid to the tournament champion, that's going to be up in the air. But for this year, though, Doc, we will have 2 teams that deserve to represent this conference. In other words, if this thing still ends up in a tie, for seeding purposes, Alcorn will be the number 1 seed. But I would be happy with Grambling or Alcorn representing the SWAC, whether it's in the NC2A tournament or the NIT. I think we will have 2 teams that can compete, and they've shown that all year long that they can compete. So I would be real happy. But for future, I am like you. I will hope that your conference champion gets the automatic qualifier, and then we, the SWAC, along with the MEAC, will also get a second bid for our tournament champion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm just really hoping that it pans out. And I thought, where they stretched it when they went from 64 to 68, and then you have a lot of people, everybody feels like they get the short end of the stick when they don't get invited to the dance. But the 96, that creates a lot more hope for some of those would-be bubble programs, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that leads us to tomorrow night. There are some big games on tap. On the women's side, we're not worried about Jackson State. They're going in the Mississippi Valley. Unless they're going to leave half of the team, I expect them to win that game. Tomorrow, on the women's side, Alabama State has a big game against Grambling. The Alabama A&M women have a big game against Southern. Your Panthers are hosting your in-state rival, Texas Southern.
Yes.
That's going to be big. Florida A&M's women can put a wrench in the Bethune-Cookman's hopes of making the tournament on the women's side.
Right.
So that's a big game. And then the last game tomorrow will be Alcorn State against Arkansas Pine Bluff on the women's side. Now, when you flip the script, when you look at what's happening on the men's side, your Panthers and the men are going to be faced off in a very, very big game.
Yes, sir.
Right. So that game has a lot of implications. And then, of course, the two leaders, Alabama State going into Grambling. Grambling has to win that game to stay in contention. And then, of course, Alcorn is going into Pine Bluff. That's a tough place to play. They cannot overlook Pine Bluff. That's a big game for them. And then, of course, my Bulldogs going down to Southern. That's a big game for the Bulldogs. Jackson State men, I think, are sitting pretty. They got to be ready to play now because Jackson State is another team that Coach Ivory will have those Delta Devils ready to play.
Yes, sir.
So they got to be on their P's and Q's. But if I had to pick an upstart team or a dark horse team, it would be Jackson State. I also would vote, if I had a vote, I would vote Coach Williams as Coach of the Year.
Okay.
I don't think anybody expected Jackson State men to be where they are today.
No, and I'd be the first to admit that from what I saw, the struggle that he had at Alabama State.
Right.
And then transitioning over. And it appeared to be a rather smooth transition, for him to get on in and take care of what he's taking care of. Now, we know the importance of these games on tomorrow, but it's also a momentum deal going into the tournament.
Yes.
No one wants to lose going into the tournament.
Correct.
And there's something with the psyche because the old saying, you're only good as your last game, right?
Correct.
So when you look at that, you kind of brought it up a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of said, it ain't nothing. I got some concerns about Alcorn right now. I really do. I really do. It's like they may have teetered out. They start off hot, and then the wear and tear of the regular season seems like it's catching up with them right now.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that I do know has happened now, I know Coach Bussey has backed off a little bit. He talked about it on his pregame show about how he cut down his practice time. He allowed his kids to get their bodies late in the season. And see, when you have a long season in basketball, when you hit the month of February, as a coach, you got to read the pulse of your team. And you have to do things to make sure that those kids are physically and mentally ready to go. And on the physical side, you control that because you set your practice schedule. See, coming down the stretch for me, I backed off a lot of the physical things that we normally would be doing so that the kids would have their legs so they can become better free throw shooters, so they can become better jump shooters because you need your legs when you do these kind of things. And if you're still putting them in the grind, then your kid, you're going to fade. And, that's one of the things that they're trying to say that has been Southern's men's downfall for the last few years. They always start out great at the beginning of the year, and they fade down the stretch. Now, has Southern looked at what they've been doing in practice? Are they still grinding? If they're still grinding, there's your solution. That's what has happened.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's what's happened because I'm not in their practices.
Right, but
Right.
it would seem, Coach, that we talk about the grind all the time. That if you stand on the grind, at some point you should get adjusted, and it'll give you that edge, so it becomes second nature.
Right.
But what if I'm hearing you correctly? You got to learn how to hit reverse at this time of the season.
Right. Sometimes you got to save your players from themselves. You will have a team where they just want to grind. But if you allow them to do that, you're going to suffer down the stretch because in tournament play, you play back to back. It's not like the regular season. You got a day in between. Well, if you're not the number one seed, you're going to play back to back.
Right.
So
right.
that all that comes into play. So these last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, they're very crucial on the coach's side for them to figure out the pulse of their team so that they know what they should be doing and what they should not be doing.
Okay, well, Coach, you sound like the NBA now. These guys need to take breaks during the regular season when the folks want to come see the top guys
management.
play. Yeah, the load management.
No.
Yeah.
But look, but remember, I'm taking my load management in practice, not in the games.
I
want my stars playing every game.
I know that's right. I
want my stars playing every game, and I want them playing at their best.
Yes, sir. I just don't know why you need load management when you got $50 million being put in your bank account. I don't get that, but I won't even go down that rabbit hole right now, Coach, because we got a lot of SWAC basketball on this weekend. And you know what? I was still up here thinking, Coach, this is going to be our last regular season conversation because you guys are going to be in the thick of things come next week from Birmingham, man. And I want to say thank you, man, for another stellar season with these reports, man. And as my grandmother would say back in the day, they're getting gooder and gooder each round.
I'm happy that I've had the opportunity that you have given me this opportunity, and basketball is my passion. I love it. I'll always be a part of it, and why not share the little that I know about it with you and everybody else? So it's fine. It's a plus. It's a blessing for me to be able to still do it.
Yes, sir. We're blessed to have you on board, and even though we're coming to an end, I'm going to have to take my medicine like a man, Coach, because I know you didn't forget, but I'm going to go on and bring it up first.
Yep.
You can go on and say it. Go ahead and say it, Coach. Get it out your system.
No. We're okay. Doc. We're okay. It's just one game. Baseball is a big sport, and I know you have a lot of passion for it, but your Panthers will be okay. It's just that they have when you're going after a bulldog, you have to be very careful because they do bite.
And look, I'm gonna have to take that and grin and say, yes, sir, you were right, and I was wrong. But it is what it is, Coach. Man, look, we're going to give you some closing thoughts, and the floor is now yours, sir.
Well, like always, Dr. Prince, this has been outstanding. I've enjoyed it, and I would like to really encourage you to continue doing what you're doing because this is sorely needed, and I think our people appreciate the things that, as they say, that you are a real person. You are a real person, and you bring it home like it's supposed to be brought home. And I just want to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing because you do have an assignment.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And we couldn't get it done without the aid of good folks like yourself and the folks that keep coming back. We must be doing something right, folks. They keep tuning in and they keep coming back. So we're thanking everyone for helping us to stay encouraged and stay focused. He is the guru, the man with the plan, Coach Van Pettaway, and you'll hear him, Lee Hall, and Joshua Davis on Wednesday, March 8th through the 11th from Birmingham, Alabama with the SWAC basketball tournament. As they say, from sun up to sundown. Every dribble, every foul, every jump shot, every slam dunk, you'll hear it coming off these young men in action. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince, a full weekend of basketball. Come on, Panthers. Don't let me down now. You got to finish strong and grab that tiger by the tail so we can still have a sweet spot in this tournament. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Thank you guys. Reminding you to follow me on Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.